Thank everyone for having the group.
I have a question favor. About 5 minutes before I was getting ready to leave, I think my external drive that I have attached to my laptop died. Anybody who works in PC and has 5 or 10 minutes after this meeting, I can plug in everything. Yeah, thank you. I have back brace, so everything's okay. If it is good.
Okay. When you get started. Mute. Well, no.
Yeah, actually, put the volume down on this. Is it better? Yeah. Okay. I guess I need to share my screen. And that would help. Do that about half. And where do I hear? Here. So here, you know, that's a lot there. It's cold. Okay. Especially if it's on bed, help the threaders go down. You could do this without any real power straights. For some reason, this area is noted for that song. Yeah, it's, they say that Richmond is in the kidney stuff. Yeah. I don't want to, I can say a lot of detail, but a lot of them also has. Well, but both of them would be order things, order things. Third order up in this column. You stay there.
Okay. What I wanted to talk about a little bit this morning, I use Lightroom almost exclusively. Plus a little program called Helicon Focus I use. I do a lot of macro work. And Helicon Focus lets me do focus stacking, which is a really cool technique I really like. These are some photos that I just took at the Botanic Gardens the other day. On Friday, which is also the day that one of my cameras died on. I was in the middle of taking pictures. I always carry 2 cameras. I usually have 2 camera bodies and 3 lenses. I had my telephoto on my 5D Mark IV and my macro lens on my R5, which works out as a good way to do it. I also have a 24 to 105 that I can switch to if I want to do some lens. But I was using the telephoto lens to photograph some flowers. And quit. All of a sudden, stopped. It was good. I thought the battery died. I didn't have the battery, but I put in a new battery. Same thing. It won't recognize the battery. So I finished doing what I was doing. Fortunately, I was able to put my telephoto lens on my R5 to finish what I was doing. And I go around and I did the shot that I needed to stop this morning before the meeting at the yes store. R5 back to Canon, or my 5D back to Canon, so they can compare. It's estimated $500. A replacement would be $1,800. So anyway, so that's what's happening there. But while I was there, I took a lot of photos. And when I take photos, I import them directly into Lightroom. I also have it convert them from the CR2 or CR3 format, depending which camera I'm using, into a DNG format, which is recognized by a lot of other software programs if you want to do editing. So it takes a couple of extra minutes. So my standard routine go to the mechanic arts in the morning, spend 2 hours or longer there getting a whole bunch of photos. And then I come home and I start loading them onto the computer. And then while they're loading, I go take a shower. And then I come back and I edit it. And then that works out. I'm clean. So I bring them in. The only thing that I do during the import is I have it do lens corrections on the picture while it's bringing it in. Yeah, through Lightroom. That's through the import dialog. As an import, the thing that I do is have it apply lens correction. I also have it set it up so that it brings it in and puts it into date order. So the date that I do it is there. And so if you see here on the side, this is the computer I use when I travel. So my laptop has a lot more photos, but these are from when I travel. And then I basically list what did I do that most of the time. So when I go to look for photos, I can go back and I can sort by, okay, which were the pictures that I took at the mechanic arts, which were the pictures I took, I can go in and find them fairly easily that way. If I did roses one day, I just list it as roses, makes it easy to go back and find whatever. So that works out well. Now, I did a lot of focus stack. And if you've ever done focus stack, it's a pretty cool feature. The camera will take pictures at different focal points. And then there's software that will combine them into one image. And I don't know the algorithm in it, but it keeps only the in-sharp parts of the picture. So your final picture can be amazing. Really is something cool. So I really like that feature. When I started doing macro photography, one of the things and I especially like to take small things too, doing macro photography. You want to get depth of the field, you want to get clarity. I like shallow depth when I want things to look like an abstract, when I try to get a lot of detail. That's where the focus stack really comes in. But I've tried using, stopping down to f32, but that takes either really long exposure for a lot of light, and when you stop down that far, you don't get great clarity because you start to get. So when I'm doing the focus bracketing, I'm shooting somewhere between f6.3 and f9 on my macro lens, which gives me really good clarity. And I take a number of shots, combine it, and get a really good result. So that's one of the things that I do. But because I do that, when I was out of the gardens the other day, I have my tripod, I go to see what I want to take, and I had my camera set. Let me pull it up. Okay. I have two different ways to do focus stacking. When I'm at home, I have a system called a stack shot. It's a motorized focusing rail. I set the camera on there and I set it on manual focus and I move it until it is at the deepest point in what I want to take. Then I move it back where the closest point to me that I want to take. And it will tell me, okay, you move 65 millimeters. And I say, okay, take 25 shots. And that, I then press start and I sit down and let it work. It's connected to a strobe, which I have currently shooting through a beauty dish. So I'm getting very fast light for each shot. It'll take the shot, move, take the shot, move. So that 25 shots might take 2 minutes. And then when it's done, I bring them into the computer and take a look at them. The advantage of that is I'm using a strobe, so I get really fast light. I'm often shooting at an ISO of 50 or 100. So I'm getting really good detail. And I get very, very good results. You know, the results I've gotten with this have been really good. The challenge is that that's pretty much limited to doing it indoors where I have a strobe. I really like doing that. The other way I do it is with my Canon R5. Oh, the Canon R5. This is the focus bracket. So I enable focus bracket. Tell it how many shots and what my focus increment is. That focus increment is a relative range of how much it's going to increase between each shot. And that takes some practice and getting used to, because the closer you get, the smaller the focus increment is. So when I get up to the point where I'm close to 1:1, it can barely move between shots. So then I have to increase that focus increment to tell it to take a bigger jump between shots. So, so sometimes I end up saying, okay, I'm going to take 20 shots, but because of the size and the distance of what I am, 20 shots is too many. It overshoots the picture. Other times it doesn't do quite as much if I'm close. So sometimes I end up having to play with it a little bit, but that's okay. You know, some practice I've learned to get there. With the other system, I know exactly where it's going to start and exactly where it's going to stop and how many shots are going to be in between. But when I go out to the Botanic Gardens and I do this, this is how I do it. And I'm using a 100mm macro lens, and I've gotten enough experience at it to get pretty good results. So now when I import it, because now here I'm showing 391 photographs, and this isn't all that I took the other day. I've deleted some of them to make it a smaller grouping. One of the things you can do when you're bringing your pictures, you can then go up and you do photo stacking and auto stack by capture time. That then takes it and takes each stack and makes it into its own little stack. So that when I go through, I can find, okay, here's just a single photograph that I took of a straw flower. Here is a stack of 20 photos that I took of a flower called an agapanthus. Okay. Now there's 20 shots there, and that's the first shot in the stack. That way I've got it easy and I know where the stack starts. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to unstack it. And now I will select all of the photos in that stack. Now, one of the first things that I do is I go back and I look at the last picture in the stack. Okay. And I look, okay, it looks like the farthest point that's in there is pretty well. It doesn't look like I've overshot it or undershot it. So it looks like it's a pretty reasonable stack. But when you compare that to the first one, each picture, as I go through, now you can see there's a little bit of movement. I was in the gardens, there's a little bit of air movement. So there is a little bit of movement between each shot. It's not like being at home where it's on a tripod and everything is perfectly stable. I mean, I was on a tripod, but with the air movement, I'm having to deal with that. Okay.
Quick question.
Yes.
When you're doing your 20 shots, have you already told your camera to take 20 shots?
Yeah, I told the camera to take 20 shots, and then I set it for typically I use a 2-second delay. So I say, okay, take it, and then after taken. Now, when it's doing it like this, those 20 shots take place in less than a second. So, no, it's just, and I've got them all. That's pretty much shooting in burst mode. Next thing I'll do then is I will say export, and I choose where I want to export it to. And in this case, I'm going to shoot it to Helicon Focus. I name it, it's an agapanthus, and I tell it to shoot it and just with a sequence. So it's going to just number each picture. And then I tell it I want original because I have imported these as a digital negative, DNG file. I want it to export as a DNG. And Helicon Focus program recognizes the DNG. It will then render the image as a DNG and send it back to Lightroom. So I'm working with raw files and I end up with a raw file. So when I export it to Helicon Focus, and now it's opening up Helicon Focus module. And here's my 20 pictures lined up there. Now, down here, I have 3 options for what to do. Method A, method B, and method C. Almost never use method A. Method B, I use very commonly, and sometimes the method C. They're interchangeable, but there's sometimes one has an advantage over the others. One of the problems you can get with this is because there's a change in the size of the image from the first picture to the last because it's changing focus, is you can end up getting a halo around the finished image because of that. Method B seems to be very good at helping to minimize those halos. You get a halo, you end up having to do a little bit of work. Shooting against the black background, great way to deal with it. But if you're out in the garden, you don't have that, you have to work with it. So now it's set for method C. So I'm going to tell it to render. And I was going to start the process, and it will take each picture, and you'll see it here on the left. As it goes down through, it's going to be taking those shots. And it'll take just a couple of minutes to bring that in there. You can just see the little bit of motion as it's moving. There's settings down at the bottom, the radius and the smoothing. I've played around with that to get good results. And I've also gone to some YouTube tutorials by people who have done this. And I've come up with settings that I find to work for me pretty well. So while it's going through the process, it's like a bit of movement from image to image. But the software does a pretty good job of bringing those together and matching them up. So now it's drawing the finished image. Okay, there's the original and the finished. Now I save it. Get that to go away, okay? So I save it. And it's telling me these are the settings that I had. But I just rename it as whatever it is. And it will now save that image and put it back into Lightroom.
That's great. Quite a difference from the original.
Yeah. Okay. Close Helicon Focus. And it will typically put it in as the second image in the stack. I don't know why. But so we can look at, here's the first image. And this is the finished version. Okay. I look at this, I feel pretty good about it. I don't have any noticeable halos. If I did, it would show up as kind of a little shadow around the edge of them. So it looks like I got pretty good results. Okay. So if I'm going to edit this, I look at my histogram and it's pretty good. I've got a nice spread on it. I'm going to take the texture up just a little bit. Brightness. Drop it down a little bit. I'm happy with that. You know, we're just doing that. That works out pretty nicely. Yeah. So I really like that. You know, the first time I used this, I had rented one of those stack shot systems through Lens Rental. And I set it up at home and I photographed a dandelion, I believe. And by the end of the afternoon, I was so happy with it that I ordered my own. And I've been using it ever since. And then the reason I bought the 5D Mark IV is because it would do it in the camera, which was really helpful if we're going out into the field. So that
You mean the focus stack?
the focus stacking, it does it there. The R5
Is
does,
it
yeah.
the R5 or the 5D?
This is with the R5. The R5 does the in-camera focus bracketing. All of the new mirrorless cameras, I was even looking at one of their lowest level cameras, an R50, I think. It does focus bracketing. It's built in. You know, that's like a $600 camera that will do it. But it's really a cool thing. And the Helicon Focus software is developed in the Ukraine. And they had been making something called an FD, which you would put between your camera and your lens, and it would make the lens focus between shots. And I have one of those. The only problem with it, it was a little bit slow. The advantage is you could start it and then stop it whenever you felt like you had gone deep enough. You could be watching the progression. It was a little bit slow, but it did work. So I had that, but when I got the R5, it does it internally. So I was really happy with the result. Okay.
So Tom, if you were doing landscape lower light situation where F8 or F11 might not be, you could do the same thing.
Yeah. Although what I do when I'm doing it for landscapes, I usually just manually set, you know, I'll set it up, and since the camera will let you set your focal point by touching the viewfinder, you know, the screen, I would just take a picture touching it at like 3 different places in the image to get the depth and then combine it together. I haven't tried using it to have it automatically do that, but I've done it that way. Here's another one. Okay. Here's this one of my favorite flowers out of the gardens right now, and I need to get some of these at home. It's called a straw flower. And if you look at it, that's the very first image in the stack. Really has a lot of fine detail in it. And I've shot it, you know, in different ways, but by focus stacking, change this to go through the same process. This was in the conservatory the other day, which made it easy. There was no wind or anything, so I didn't have any real movement to deal with. I was still on a tripod. My brother-in-law goes to Phipps Conservatory in Pittsburgh a lot, but they don't allow tripods, which would make it a challenge. I'm in a focus stacking group on Facebook, and I'm posting, and people are like, was that handheld? Hell no. But they all brag about doing these things handheld. I'm saying, no. You know, I'm lucky to, when I take shots without focus stacking, I usually take 2 or 3 shots just to try to make sure that I got a good focal point on one of them. But trying to hand hold it while it does 20 shots, no.
Yes, interesting, the restrictions some places have.
Yeah.
And like, I was shooting a place that had no restrictions on a tripod. Yeah. But when I went in and set up, they said they didn't want any pro photographers.
Hmm.
I said, well, I'm not a pro photographer. Didn't matter. I said, well, what if I now a cell phone on a tripod?
Yeah. Okay, so I drop this back to Helicon Focus, turn to Lightroom. There's the finished result compared to the first shot. So again, one thing that I normally do, I usually increase the texture slider to get as much texture in it as I can. Maybe brighten it up a little bit with the whites and balance it with the
And you have the focus set out?
Hmm?
The focus is set, say manual focus?
No, for this it's autofocus. For the with a stack shot system, you do manual focus because you're moving the camera, you're not changing the focus of the lens. So this is on autofocus. Okay. So that's a finished end result.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, I say, I can get I can get a nice shot of that flower without it, but the ability to get that level of detail, I wouldn't be able to get it. And the other thing about that is that was shot at, let's see, f6.3. The advantage of f6.3 is that my background is soft focus. If I were to try to take this up to f22 to get more detail, the background's going to get real crunchy. And I want that soft focus background. So that's what I try to do. Now, something else here that I wanted to bring out. Okay. Now, the other thing that I find now, these were photos that were taken with my stack shot system. This is an agapanthus. This is a ranunculus, the white flower. And I took probably 20 shots of it. This was that wrong one. Actually, this one was taken at f14, but this must not have been stacked. This must have just been a single shot that I did. But the thing about this is the problem with a white flower like this is that it's very easy for it to be a white blob. And so from an editing standpoint, first thing I will typically do is brighten it up enough. Okay, so I've got a little bit of clipping, and that would be a pure white. It still looks a little bit blurry. I'm going to take the texture up, then turn the highlights down. Now I'm going to play a game of balancing between turning the highlights down and turning the white up to try to get the texture that I can get. Okay. That's with nothing. And this is with the edit settings. A white flower or a pure yellow flower that can give you that kind of an image. Whereas it's very easy to just be pure blob without any detail. So I find that doing that, I can get it bright without being over bright. And get the result that I'm looking for. It's really a balancing act to get that result. So that's the software that I mostly use. If I were using Lightroom, the one thing I would often do with this, or if I were trying to use Photoshop, I might bring this into Photoshop since I have a pure black background. I could make the background bigger if I wanted to turn the flower to get a different angle. That makes it easy to do. Sometimes I take it and it's like, gee, I didn't get the right angle on that. I want to straighten it out, but I don't have enough room because I cropped it too close. But that would be really needed.
If you didn't have Helicon Focus, does Photoshop have any focus stacking?
I think you can, but I don't think it's nearly as good. I tried it many years ago, but I probably didn't know what I was doing. But they're Helicon Focus, and there's another one called Serene. I've never used it, but I first tried Helicon Focus. I think you can get a 30-day file. And then I ended up just buying the full program. And they update.
What's the annual cost of that?
I'm not sure. I ended up paying like $200 to have a lifetime
It shows 200. Yeah.
Is it? Yeah. So, but they do update, they update the software and they keep it going. They've actually asked me for some of my photos to use in. Good. So I'm happy with that. That's pretty much what I do. Take a lot of pictures. It's a lot of fun.
Question, Tom, before you, I don't know how much time you've got, but can you do a quick walkthrough when you said that you organize your files or your photos into by date? Because it seems like it's an automatic. And then if you just wanted to do a file on roses, how do you do that? Like there's collection.
As a collection, you basically create a collection, okay? And let's say you want to call it roses. Okay. Now I have a collection called roses, and anytime I don't have any roses in this set, but I do have roses most likely in another set that I need. But anyway, if you find something, now that I have a collection set, if you press B, it adds it to the, well, no, I didn't, okay. The collection has to be set as a target collection.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tom, an easy.
Set as target collection right there. So then
Yeah.
anything that you want, you just press B and it transfers it in. And then
Tom, this is Ed. One way you can do that is you can make a smart collection, quote unquote, smart collection, and you can tell that smart collection, for example, if you have a keyword, roses, it'll automatically go into that collection. And I use that quite a bit. So, if I have something like that, I'll just put a keyword roses in one of the pictures and it'll automatically go into the smart collection.
Yeah. The problem with that for me is that I don't do keywords, which would be a good thing to do, but I do too many pictures. And so if every time I went to the botanic gardens, like, I could sit down and, here's another agapanthus, say, okay, keyword white, keyword agapanthus, keyword Lewis Ginter. And I could search it for it that way, which is a good thing to do. But I'm not anal enough to do that. But it would be a good way to do it.
I'm the same way, except for certain smart collections that I have.
Yeah. So that's why I usually make a target collection. Like every year I do a calendar for friends and family. And so I will go through all my pictures of the year And I will make a smart collection up for that calendar, not a smart collection, but just a target collection. And I will go through and everything I think I might want to consider for the calendar, I just go through and press B and it transfers it in. And then when I'm looking at that collection, I just, and to narrow it down, when you're on that picture, you hit B again, it takes it out. So that's a good way to do it. Sure. Okay. Any questions?
How long have you been working?
3 or 4 years. When I first got that, like I say, a few years ago, when I got it with the, I got it when I first tried that stack shot system, and I got the trial for Helicon. And then once I bought the stack shot system for myself, I went ahead and got the, because it really does a nice job. I've done some things that are really impressed me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Quite
it is pretty magical. Okay. Well, if nobody else has anything, we can take a short break and then do photo share. Again, if, you know, what I was thinking, maybe we'd have a couple of people demonstrating their, you know, who was interested in an Adobe Bridge or different things. So if anybody wants to try that next month, we can do that. You know, if somebody has a favorite program that they're using. I don't believe we have a program set for next month. I know we have a program set for October. It's Jim Easton. He's a master naturalist and photographer. You know Jim? Yeah. Yeah. He did a presentation over at Lewis Ginter, and I was there and I asked him if he would be able to join us for a meeting. So, okay.
Same thing where you are, but I sort of sympathize.
Vacancy.
That was a good time. I can just get a good shot. Yeah, those files always, those files, they always possibly, because it automatically does it like that.
Yeah.
You have to capture the actual every time.
Yeah. 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 You ever do it in a macro work? Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
You go to the little big bar, last stand, you sit and going up there, there's a paper under it.
Yeah.
This is a historical place, it's just in the.
And so they took that push, you know. So that's the kind of roads and cars and all that stuff, you know, that's on your.
That came out of the Jenny Street, but which is almost amazing. Do they want to wonder if they beat out anybody's pets?
Oh, yeah.
I was gonna pull two, but I'm gonna.
I've read enough, and they're like every day.
See,
You know,
was always the-
Just yesterday, so now it's window, and here comes my backyard, it's walking up to my house, the house next door, the sidewalk.
Is it? Yeah.
Jim told me to run out the yard at 5 p.m.
I gave you a whole couple extras, especially. They lost extra, they perfect now. There was.
Oh, the acquisition.
No, 6 days, and you got a whole.
Well, but such a way. As soon as it's still time, because I read an article, they're talking about keeping products without distribution. But it's bad products.
7.6.
Exactly.
You know, somewhere else, they start close and I race on.
Simon.
And then the library, they say that's.
Right, exactly.
First text.
Right, right.
We had an engineer thing they had on the.
Oh,
Yeah, still not- like, you don't have to be there. So, just.
It's in conditions that are bad, okay, probably just like this.
Sounds like a perfect deck. Probably a.
I didn't pick it up.
So. Yeah. There was a.
That's very young.
Well, I didn't know if I got John ready to look through this. The one that my.
My cards were, I'm not trying to go out. First. Oh, and it's all. And so I took it out. I said, oh, no. There's a difference.
It's 7.
But it- Fine. Oh, that's. Yeah, so my dog.
I'm just surprised. Yeah.
And it was stuff, that's like the fact that
That's not.
you have to set the past.
Yeah.
And then- Okay, I think it's.
And that's it, automatic.
No.
We just saw it.
We at least,
Are just.
Listen to the 6.
They don't.
I have to stop the site. You know, the far.
That's the world. So that.
Yeah.
Those are places like.
Squirrel.
Yeah.
That was.
So my most best, yeah. Chances of pearls. And.
Yeah.
Get a big.
Yeah. That doesn't really.
It's you. It's me, you don't look at that.
You have a mirror.
Well,
Yeah. That's a.
Good shot.
She's having activities and so it's not sure her.
Yeah.
Override. She's in it. She did.
Oh, it's all good.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Some of this, you see that. A little bite. Too excited.
I love that.
I keep saying,
Never been out. I guess we were out. You can't go on to
Anyway.
When you go travel, do you like stuff?
You spend that word.
What's the trolley? What do you think trolley? Yeah. Some dividing,
Oh, okay.
That's already. We have, yeah. You mean.
Ready, yeah, again? Yes, please. Okay, and, get ready, we go to, three.
You can stay over here. Do your shirt.
I think I can hear you fine. You hear me all right? Yeah. Okay.
I've got a little photo to share. I'm looking outside and bring something today. But soccer. Yeah, which we photographed a lot of at the Richmond Kickers, the city stadium. And that's I've shown, we've shown before, and we are fortunate in that they give us a press pass so we can get in on the ground floor. And then this one, let me just say before I try to describe anything, it's like we just like to see a lot of, I try to get color and motion. I mean, sports probably didn't motivate, the actual games didn't motivate us to start photographing sports. It was the actually moving so fast, look at all those colors, et cetera, et cetera. Here's a example here, pretty exciting episode, and you can see it's a question of whether or not the score is going to be made. And of course, this is the U-Crops goalie, Richmond, and he's from out of town. And of course, I'm shooting rapid speed, so I've got, I can choose this, or I can choose before he goes down or whatever. And also, Ling and I shoot in raw, even though it's sports, and most of the real sports photographers that do it for magazines and things like that, they don't do the editing that we do. They don't spend the time on it. They're trying to get it done really quickly and get it into whoever they are working for. And so we've got time to edit down now with Photoshop's excellent removal process. We can remove extraneous people, really, that I wouldn't do it if I were gonna try to send it into some newspaper or something like that. Or can you do the next one, Kim? Here's what I want to mention about this is, aside from the picture itself, lots of color, yellow shoes, red jersey. I shoot in a generally, Lynn doesn't, she doesn't think I should do it. I shoot in a higher aperture, like to try to get as much depth of field as I can. And it gets dicey sometimes because they're back over very near to the fans, some of the fans, and I don't want them to be really sharp, of course, and a lot of pro sports photographers, you won't even be able to see their face. They're just of the fans. But anyway, I got both of them pretty sharp. There's so many neat things you can do. For instance, Photoshop, you can generate, you can generate things. And this picture would have been a total loss because it happened so fast. I didn't completely get that feed. I was telling Tom about this, but I was able to expand. You can go into Photoshop and generate. I told it that I wanted to complete the shoes on with the man with yellow shoes, the man in front. So they did it and completed the shoe. And this one had strings. This one didn't have any. This was smooth, so that didn't work. So I had to keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. Finally, I just took it with no strings on either shoe. And that's actually the way they looked, because I had one shoe that had I could see it, and it didn't have there wasn't a lace up. Okay. Now this one, again, trying to get a lot of depth of field. And I shot this in a aperture of 14, which is high. But I pretty much got 6 players in focus. 6 of them, ordinarily, they've been blurred. The last 3 were bad, probably he would have been, his face a little bit blurred, the ball was really sharp. And they were far enough away that it didn't make all of the crowd in clear focus.
Quick question.
Okay.
You have the F-16. What was your speed, and did you have ramp up?
2,000. My speed was 2,000. What was my ISO?
Yeah,
I was shooting on automatic ISO, but it was really high.
Yeah,
It was high,
had to be.
very high. But that's another thing with new technology. It's so much easier to clean up noise than yesterday.
True.
And I use Lightroom almost exclusively, and even we used to use Topaz denoise, but Lightroom has improved so much that
They bought Topaz.
yeah, they did. Yeah, just use the Lightroom, and it takes care of these astronomical ISO. And at a certain point, it gets so that you can't. Once those gains are like 7 to 9 and 8:30 to 9 get so dark that some of them 2,000 is just too much. I go back down to a 5, a 4 aperture, etc.
That one is 11,400. Your ISO.
Is that what it was? 11,400?
It's up there right by the arrow.
Oh, right, yeah, that's where we could see it. Yeah. Okay. I like this one because the ball's right in the middle and so much red. And the other teams. Okay.
Are you just shooting continuous, like?
Yes.
Keep your button, your hand on the button.
Yes, but because it's, raw, it will only go to 10. 10's the most it will go. And it's not as fast as if we were shooting on, JPEG.
Actually, the Z8, the highest number you can shoot is 20, over 20.
Yeah,
But
you
we
go
use
with
10.
because it's raw.
It's too many image.
It'd go to 61, it'll go even higher, I'm sure. But anyway, so it's starting to get a little dark there, so it's darker.
And you're using a Zoom.
You're using
How heavy?
100 to 400, 100 to 400. And sitting in the chair, a little stool, to, get down on the level of players, a little bit lower. Okay. All right, this one, you can see I don't have enough depth of field for what I want to do. He's not quite sharp, but these two fellows, both of those are. All right. And here's another, the fellow in the gold is the goalkeeper. And the fellow in the white is on his team. And then there's the Richmond kicker, who's in red. You can see he's making a valiant attempt to prevent score. He's really making an effort. And he succeeded. A hitter. And one thing unusual to be this one, well, it's not really unusual, but I just like the way the opposition player was conference really assisting the other team player to move the ball. They got one very similar to that. Often we go in different parts of the stadium. She's in one part and another part. But this time we were close together, and she got one almost exactly like it was. Pretty close. All righty. And that's it. That's it. Nice.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Is that the Canon 100 to 400?
It's a Nikon CA. It's mirrorless with a 100 to 400.
Oh, so I don't want to bore you guys. So maybe the Bill and I shoot the Kicker and Ivy in city studio. I think it's like 30 years. So my point of the intention is slightly different from there. I want to isolate and capture facial expression if I can. And also I want to look at a new player. So this image I shoot so auto ISO. I use auto ISO. The ISO is over 1600. And the number of frame is about the same, 10 frame, 1 second. So each time you shoot, and the camera every the target 10. So editing selection is always an issue to me. Quite a challenge. You sit there almost fall asleep. It's just a kind of. What I did is I decided to simplify my selection. I select twice. First selection is just go over if the face, not the sharp clear, get up. I just leave it. Ignore it. And the second selection, I began the crop. I will do the crop first. I don't want too many stuff there at the day. And get your viewers' attention away from player or from ball. That's my approach. This one I did is, I think what I use is 100, 400, 100 to 400. The position I did is almost in the middle of the field. They find cross me, I was on this side, and that this picture was captured. Please. And this one is Ivy. Ivy is a pre-professional team. Their player came from all the places, mostly are elite college play. Summertime. This I took all the picture today, 4 of them is shoot at Boston June 2026. With the Ivy, at the beginning of the game, they were introduced new player. Someone's name. I couldn't remember everyone's name, but I do not remember their number. This lady, blue, the green shirt. Here's Ivy, Richmond team. It's a new person. I keep thinking, what she can do tonight. So entire game, I'm literally chasing her. I just look at the crosses of the field, and we can look at her. We can take picture, see what she can do. Of course, this one too. This lady, number 27, she is an attacker. She's running fast and really tough, like an animal. So I just follow that. Whenever they're on the field of play and look at the number, okay, follow her, you get it. And paying attention on her face. What she sometimes they yell, they're screaming, whatever. But most of it, that's my target. I take it. One more picture about this. Here, this display, I think we have too much lights on. But actually, this U-Cross players, Tesla was the first thing when I first select, this class. Staring at the ball. Nobody could take it. So I put this picture. That's it.
Nice. Very nice. Especially with the World Cup this summer, it's, oh, no. I was getting caught up in the middle, so whatever that is.
And that's always that too.
These are mine. About a month ago, my wife and I were out doing yard work, and these World War II planes kept buzzing over our house. Because we live very close to the Hanover County Airport, and we were right in the flight path. And so a B-17 and a B-25 bomber kept buzzing over us. So we looked at it and looked into it, and they were having an event out there where you could go out and visit and tour these 2 World War II planes. So we took my grandson out, and this one, Sentimental Journey, I think this might have been, there's a B-25 and a B-17. B-17, I believe, was the bigger of the 2, but these were both in service in the Second World War. The next picture is the shot of the engine on it.
I wonder what those cameras were out there. Did they bomb cameramen or something?
Probably. Well, either that or they were using movies.
Yeah, or it's shooting, taking pictures
Yeah,
of the
but
camera.
yeah, they had some pretty serious weaponry on them.
You think that's Betty Grable?
Yeah, it might be. I'm not sure. I never met her.
Seen lots of
Yeah,
pictures.
before our time.
And next, is the other one. This is made in the shade. And it, served, I believe, over in, Italy area. This was the bigger of the two. As part of the commemorative Air Force, and they're based out of Mesa, Arizona. And they have a number of planes, and they travel around the country doing, these type of events. And you were able to actually go up inside the plane. And when you realize that these things were small,
Yes, they are.
on the inside, I mean, they must have had a limit. They couldn't hire, they couldn't bring anybody in who was over like 5'2". It was like, it was very, very small, and I didn't see a bathroom either. Next, that's my grandson. He got into it. He thought firing the machine gun out of there was pretty cool.
Sign him up.
But that was really cool. It was a neat thing to see. They were giving rides for like $400 a person. We didn't do the ride, but they said that didn't actually cover the cost of the fuel for the ride. But it would have been cool to do. Then we have a bluebird house in our backyard, and this is our first touch of bluebirds this year. And this was late evening. I was shooting through my kitchen window, and this was a juvenile that came out looking for food. And it was looking for food, and he wanted to be fed. Next. And that's the adult. Getting food from we have suet there. And so it was getting suet to feed to the young one. And it's interesting because the young one looks almost bigger than the adult. Maybe because it's fluffed up more. But they liked the suet, and that was very helpful for them. So the next shot, again, getting ready to feed him. So these are shots in my kitchen window. I believe these are probably ISO 1280 or 12800. It was relatively dark, just with the dark background and everything. So I was shooting through the back, shooting through a window, and I'm pretty happy with the quality of the pictures under those circumstances. Next. This was out of the Botanic Gardens. In the central fountain this year, there was a duck and ducklings. They made a nest next to it, and I went out there one morning. They were swimming around in the fountain. There, I'm sure it started with more than 3, and I don't know what happened to the others, but it was pretty cool. This was the green heron that's out there in the new lake that's behind the conservatory. It's called Wick Lake. There's turtles, and there was a blue heron out there the one time I went out. That was pretty cool. This was over Memorial Day weekend. We went to Connecticut to photograph my nephew's baby. She was 6 months old at this point. And I photographed her 3 months earlier. And this time I was smart. I took an 18-inch diameter ring light with me, because it turned out to be raining the whole time we were there. There wasn't great. There was a window next to her going out to the porch, but there wasn't enough light coming in. So the ring light helped and gave me that little catch light in her eyes. Next. And this is at Lewis Ginner. What I like about the butterflies is that a lot of them, you get a good shot, their eyeballs look like soccer balls. And I always try to focus on the eye when I get them. Not sure what that, I'm thinking it might be a postman, but I'm not sure. Next is a different type, similar, but again, with the little soccer ball eyes. This is a different kind. I'm not sure what this one's called, but I like the little red patches along the underside. That's a pretty neat one. And these I took all this past Friday when I was out there. And next. Another one, that's a pretty neat one. And I like the action shot of it feeding. Trying to get in there. And this was nice that it posed for me. Back there. Another action shot feeding. Okay, now this is another straw flower, but this one I did not focus at. I just shot it just regular, probably at f8. You're trying to get close, but in fact, it's really like the nature of that flower, all of the details and everything. I would hate to be an artist trying to draw that. That would make me crazy trying to actually draw that. But the photograph works out pretty well. Next. And here's that one that I showed earlier from the demonstration. Next. And it is now lotus season out there. I was out there Friday, the lotuses are still blooming. There were a lot of lotuses when I was there on Friday. So for that, I needed a telephoto lens. But by that point, my camera and my telephoto lens on had quit working. So I had to switch my telephoto lens over to my other camera. But I was able to do that. There were a lot of nice lotuses out there. Next. And this was a orangish red sunflower that I picked up at the grocery store one day. And I just did that up close with the focus setting. Okay. Very nice. Thank you.
So this is a hodgepodge of stuff I've been shooting the last couple of months. This was at the Chesterfield Town Center Carnival back in May. I very humbly asked this guy who's about 6'4", what he would take his photo. And he said, sure. So snap away. So what attracted me were the glasses. I thought they're pretty cool. This is a sort of a hip shot, but again, at the carnival. And carnival food is a big part of the attraction, I think. But I just like the expression on the face. I'm always attracted to older vehicles. This is a Ford Super Duty 850, 1957. Very chunky, old-fashioned tow truck. I like the paint job on this Harley Davidson. Down at the VMFA, if you look in upper sky, you see a little spot. If you zoom in, you can tell that it's a helicopter. I didn't even realize I had that in the frame till I started editing.
And no people. Did you have to wait? So there were no people in the scene?
No, it was fairly early in the morning. Now, these were just taken yesterday. My wife wanted to see an exhibition there, the Indian mobiles. And I didn't want to go with her, so.
Wait for you outside.
I dusted up my 16 millimeter and took a bunch of wide angle shots. And this is just 180 degrees out from the previous shot. Just turn around and shoot that way. And it reveals to me that the building is sort of ugly in some respects. I don't know, I guess it's personal preference. I like the leading lines leading you to the chapel and the clouds. And I took this, I guess back in June. It's a multiple exposure, and what I kept from the multiple exposure was the sky. That kind of magnifies and multiplies the clouds in the sky, and I just like the colors. As it was.
That's all of them that we have.
That's all we have.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, now, Kemp, you're not gonna be here at the next meeting, right?
Correct.
Okay, so it won't be a Zoom. We will still have photo share. If anyone can think of a topic, that we can do a presentation on it. Anybody else with any software that they would like to demonstrate? Let me know. We'll put out a request, try to, get a topic going for next time. And see if we can get a presentation, or if you have any idea of anybody we could invite or come in and do a topic, that would be great. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing everybody, and please send your pictures to
Tom.
send them to somebody for the newsletter.
Don't make me chase you down, be knocking on the door. Hurry that time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye, guys. Good seeing y'all.
Bye, take care.
Bye, everyone.
Do we need to put the chairs up, Kathy?
No, they have.
I'll show what you got. Hanging there.
Yeah.